Hey Simon, how are you?
Hello! I'm good, mate. Great to see you again.
Angie, it's good to see you. How's things been lately?
Yeah, yeah. We're still rocking.
Good. Yeah, same here. I'm still rocking. I can adopt that into my daily motto.
Where
Yeah, I mean it's
where are
great.
you? Where are you in the world?
Still in Enfield, North London,
Yeah,
sunny North
yeah.
London.
North London boy.
Yes. And you, Thailand, I heard.
I'm in Thailand. Yeah, yeah. I was in London for a bit, and I'm back here again. I'm back in September, so I'm around.
What was your
Yeah. So what's
experience
going on?
like in London?
Well, I'm very lucky because this is just a really cool place to live. And I got Asia in my bones, I guess. I mean, we were born here, and so I was keen to get back. That's a polite way of putting it, but no, London's is not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
ain't easy. It's very, very expensive. Um, People are sort of, you know what? Actually, I was staying in Kensington, and a lot of rich people in Kensington and Chelsea. But everywhere else in the country, people at every level of society, people are really struggling. And I think that the people who live in Kensington, Chelsea, and Westminster, most of them, perhaps the new Labour guy does, but most of them don't know what it's like to be a normal person in England. That's what I think.
Oh
What do
yeah, I
you
can
reckon?
resonate. Oh no, 100% I agree with you. You know, in the last 20 years, I've had this unique experience of being born in 2000 where things kind of made sense. And now
Yeah,
seeing my
yeah.
parents work and stuff as well, it's like no one has any time to do anything anymore apart from work
I know, I
constantly.
know, I know.
But yeah, no, I completely agree.
What do your parents do?
My dad works for the council, and my mum
Yeah,
works in a school as like a chef, basically. So
yeah, yeah,
standard professional jobs. But I,
yeah, yeah.
as you know, want to go into like business and media and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
definitely.
you broke out. Did your brothers and sisters do the same thing?
I've got one sister, and she works in property. I was
Yeah,
the first in my family to go to university. So yeah, I
yeah.
like to think of myself as a bit of a breakout. Hopefully, I can emulate something
Breakout,
similar
man.
to
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta be. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's true, man.
Exactly that. Well, let's start in the obvious place. I've ordered it.
Okay,
Yo,
let's go.
man.
Let's go.
So let's
Yeah,
go.
cool, man.
So, yo, man, part sort of autobiography, part entrepreneurship guide, really, on Amazon and yoman.co.uk, if that's right, Simon.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. I actually remembered what you said last time where, you had all these CVs. I thought it was a really good underrated story and, you'd sift through the CVs and throw out half because you believe in fate and all that. So what I did was
Well,
I
no, because I like lucky people.
yeah, you like lucky people.
Because
Exactly.
and they were the lucky ones. And perhaps that's as scientific as any other form of assessment of somebody until you get to know them.
Well, yeah, exactly. I actually turned to page 15, which is my birthday. I thought, I'll follow that kind of
Uh-huh.
lucky route.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I've got the quote. So, I had a complete disregard for work life balance because I had a mission. So, should 25-year-olds sort of like have a mission and just work until we're limping, basically, or have some work life balance? What do you think?
Well, it depends how you pronounce the word work, you know, because if work's like the best fun you could possibly have in the world, then yeah, you should just work your nuts off. Um, if work is, and it's not going to be like that all day, every day, but if it is a driven mission, if it's the thing that really turns you on, then why not? And especially when you're 25, because if you do something and lose everything or lose a little bit that you have, you've got time to recover several times before you get to big four
Yeah.
zero or whatever it is, where you get scared. Oh man, I left it too late. The earlier you start, the luckier you get, I reckon.
Yeah. I
What
mean,
do you think?
I think one takeaway I got was that you create your own luck from reading your book. 100%. I mean, do you believe that people don't put in enough reps to create their own luck these days? Or
I think that I don't think it's a question of these days. I think it's always been like that with human
Hmm.
beings. I don't think you, Generation Z, or any of us in the 60s or whatever we did, I don't think we were that different. Um, I do think that, the harder you work, the more that you sweat, the luckier you get. That is for sure. Um, and I think this idea of you, which I talk about in the book, of stepping outside your comfort zone, and the fact that, you don't always have to feel good. We kind of live in a world where we expect to feel good throughout most of civilization. Even if you're a king 500 years ago, you were worried about dying the next day, most of it,
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a pretty constituted life, and our parents went to war. We didn't have to go to war. We live a pretty comforted life. So yeah, to live to have some pain is absolutely normal for human beings. And to learn how to deal with having some pain on a daily basis, whether you call it stress or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and the earlier you learn how to deal with that, the better. There's an opposite to everything. The other thing is to normalize stress is not a good thing because it shouldn't
Yeah.
be normal. But to go through some pain is absolutely cool, especially if you can wear it. I think it depends how you wear it. If you can wear life fairly lightly, we're here one time. I'm going to do the best I possibly can, have a good time as well. But yeah, when I work hard, sort of feeling. That is a good feeling.
Yeah, and I've been a bit guilty of that, but I think I've had this realization lately too that nothing good happens in the comfort zone. I was trying to think of any success I've had in my life, and it was never in the comfort zone for sure. So,
Yeah.
100%. That's actually one of my questions. I was going to ask you: do you think being normal is actually bad if you're trying to be an entrepreneur?
That's fun, isn't it? Yeah, I wonder how many of your listeners, are sort of sitting there thinking, "Am I normal?" I mean, you see, what's weird is everybody says that I'm a maverick, and they probably do think you a bit as well, a bit out of the
Yeah,
ordinary. But for us, being me is normal. For you, being you is normal. For me, so. But I think the pursuit of normal, is it normal? I like the idea of not being normal,
yeah,
and I like the idea of doing things that will make me not normal. Like if if I spend all day on my phone or all day watching TV, because I never watched a lot of movies, I never watched a lot of films,
mm,
I never even read that much books wise. I did later in life, and and I left school early, so. I think I wasn't normalized, and I think however much we fight against it, we are normalized by society. Your school teaches you how to do things, your parents, society, the government now, everybody tries to normalize everybody. But to be a bit of a rebel without a cause or a rebel without a clue even is quite a good thing to be, because it denormalizes you, and if you denormalize yourself, then when you look at something and somebody says, "Oh no, that's how we do this normally," you go, "Well, why? Why can't it be done differently?" And I think that's what certainly the entrepreneurial thing, which everybody asks me about, it comes from that, is that you don't have to do things the way they've always been done. You can turn things on their heads and try out doing something completely different. And at least you get noticed that way. And maybe you hit a rich vein, a rich nugget. I love the idea that gold goes in these
yeah,
veins in the rocks, and you have to hack away at the rocks to find that little nugget, sometimes you do. And then when that happens, and they always take longer to get to than you think, but you have what I call a sort of tip over point where you're climbing that hill, and then suddenly oh man, I hit a nugget. Whether it's something going viral on social media
yeah,
or whatever it is, the harder you work, the more you get to that point where something just happens, and then everybody goes, "Oh, I really want to know Simon. I really want to know Alex." And suddenly you get sort of super popular or whatever for that moment in time. It never lasts, but people are interested in you and what you're doing.
yeah. I mean, one thing as I was reading the book, I was thinking to myself, okay, who's the target audience? Is there a certain demographic? Like, how would you sort of summarize who the book's for?
I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think the book is for basically anyone that wants to start a business, essentially. But I think it's especially helpful if you're starting out like myself. So I've actually already recommended it to a friend. And I think whilst reading it, you gain lessons where it's like, I don't have to pay the lesson because I've just learnt the lesson in the book. So hopefully that
Yeah.
mitigates a bit of the lesson.
Yeah. You know, mostly we learn from doing and making
Mm,
mistakes. And one thing I hope that the book's more than just a business book because
mm,
it's my story, you know.
mm.
It's I call it a rollicking story. It's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
It's a good story just to read as a story about, you know, what happened. And I've tried to be, well, I know that I've done it is I've been honest, you know, I've been honest about how close I was to the edge and what it felt like and what it was really like, not what the next success was. You know, I
yeah,
think hopefully you get that out of it. And I think if you want to steal some of my ideas or learn like you just described, you learn from my mistakes, that is great. But I ain't a preacher man. I'm not a preacher
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the
Because
English
you can
graduate.
get those books, you can get those books. Say what you have to do is this and this and this and this,
Yeah,
and it's not like that in real life.
yeah,
Everybody's got their own different way of doing it, and we all invent ourselves and find our own way of being charming, persuasive. How we
yeah.
take notes, where we keep our information, how we remember to do things, how we get things done, our little tricks, and all of them are different. That's what makes humankind so interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the English graduate in me was sort of analysing every word, and it's really well written. Well done, definitely.
Yeah, well, that is the thing is that if you do go to university, you do get to try and do everything as process driven. You're trained like a lawyer to process things and work out the pros
Mm,
and cons and on balance. And I've never done that. I've tried to educate myself about anything that I'm doing, find out about it. You know, even that's just looking at YouTube or whatever it is to find out about everything in the world and then to make decisions based on my gut feeling. But I suggest that if you've been to university like you have, that it's more process driven. What do you think about that?
no, I think you're right. And actually, I've been thinking to myself lately, am I an overthinker? I'm not getting enough action done. I should be, although I'm analytical, which is good, I need to do the final part, which is what you're saying, which is to get out and do it.
Yeah, just do it exactly. And what one thing you learn by just doing it is if you make a mistake on a decision, you know, on doing something, usually you can correct it. Usually it's not an incurable disease
Yeah,
and you can change it. And it's more important just to do things. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, that was what was so good about, I mean, you know, sometimes my references are a bit out of date, but you know, Steve Jobs, who started Apple, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
he is perennial in a way. And you know, he would just go, "I want it done by 5 o'clock this evening." You
yeah,
know, and I know best, and I absolutely want that done by this Friday. And you know, and he was sort of set those deadlines for himself and others. And everybody'd get on board, and it was like being in a war, you know, because in a war, you can't say, "Oh, let me think about that. We're going to deal with that next Friday." You've got to go sort it out, otherwise you might get
yeah,
killed, you know. And that idea of just doing it is and making it happen and seeing what happens. If you can gamify what you're doing
yeah,
in your career or your business life, you're really onto something. Gamifying is my famous one is failure.
mm,
I'd go. You know, we're looking for trying to open Sushi. I'd try and go and see three estate agents that day and three money people to get the money or the property, and
mm,
I'd fail 6 times, and I'd come back at night and I'd punch the air because I knew that only through failure was a pathway that leads to success. I going and seeing lots of people and telling them about it, and you know, refining my pitch and everything like that. Things would happen. So I didn't know that word in those days, but I was really gamifying a lot of things in life.
yeah. And I think I've got to the stage where my ego doesn't matter anymore. Like I'm happy to fail, but I think that maybe when I was 18 or 19, because also in school you're sort of told, oh, you failed the test. Oh, that's not good. You've got to, it's sort of
Yeah.
ingrained into you that it's not a good thing. But I've got to like unlearn that once I leave school.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
And
I
let's make
understand.
sure our listeners know we don't want to fail, right? We do definitely don't want to fail.
Yeah,
But when we do, we learn from it and change.
100%, 100%. Okay, I've got some quick fire questions. So,
Fire, fire, fire.
do you become more ambitious with age?
You know, um, I left it late, and I was 40 when I started Yo Sushi, and I'd had small businesses before then, and I'd had some successes and quite a lot of failures as well. Um, and so at that age, I put everything I had on the line. I had a house, I had 200 grand tied up in my house. I put everything I had on the line, everything.
Wow.
And and the dice rolled the right way and it all came right. But I think that kind of, I sometimes call it the gift of desperation. When you're all in at the
Yeah.
poker table or whatever, there's something very exciting about it. And if it's well planned, it was well planned what I was doing, it had a chance of happening. Um, and that was ambition. I wanted to see that happen. I really wanted to see it, and I couldn't believe that people wouldn't come and have a look at conveyor belts and robots and sushi and everything like that. When I've done things later, the hotel, I put myself on the line, but not with everything, not so that I'd risk not eating. And then later on, when I bought the island in the Bahamas, which I
Yeah.
eventually didn't do, and I sold for more than I bought it for, actually, but I did sell. I probably spent more than it cost me in total. But then I, I suppose I was less ambitious because it didn't have to happen. And I think if I'd been younger and I'd had everything in the line, that Bahamas island, which I was going to call Utopia, and was a glamping resort. And I went to the government of the Bahamas, and the lady said, "Oh, I talked to the Prime Minister, and he says I think glamping is good for the Bahamas. We want you to
Really?
come here." So I had them behind me, and I should have done it. But actually, it was just got to be too much trouble. And there was a bit of me that was from that poem I like to quote, to win it, you've got to be in it, but never be late to quit and cut
Yeah.
bait. And so, I said, right, I'm out, no shame, no embarrassment, no ego. I'm out of here. I'll go and do something else. And I owned an island at one point.
Wow. Wow, that's a great story. Okay. What's more important to you, optimism or competence?
That you need competent people. I sort of break it down. I mean, I think that optimism that I have, I call it enthusiasm. I
Yeah.
think it's one of the most attractive qualities in a person, enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And I often say to young people, don't think about what you're getting out of something, especially if you're looking at your first job or trying to get into something. Don't look at what you're getting out and are they exploiting you and as this, that, and the other. Just look at how can I over deliver? How can I blow their blooming minds? How can I do it so their jaw drops? Have you seen what Alex did today? What Simon did today? And incredible. Just over deliver. And that comes from enthusiasm and wanting to do things really, really well. And that is a very attractive attribute. That said, you need competence. And depending on what sort of person it is, sometimes you can be I'm a bit like I'm the sort of the entrepreneur, who's going in, we're going to do this, get
Yeah.
everybody on my side, we're all going to do it, we're in it together, we're going to win the war. But then you need the strategist, the Alex, you,
Yeah.
for example, behind
Yeah.
as part of that team who are going to actually work out every single little detail. I know the theory of the detail, but I get bored with it. So I
Yeah.
need the competent people around. But yeah, you've got to be competent as well. And you can make yourself competent. I mean, people go to me, oh, I can do the ideas bit, and I've got these really good ideas, and this, that, and the other. But when it comes to money, I'm just hopeless at money, and I can't, accounts and all that stuff. I need somebody to do that for me. No, You can absolutely learn that stuff, and I got to learn that. I learned sage accounting. I read some books on how to do that. I to put myself in situations where I had to go and deal with people. I didn't hide behind business plans. I went in and stood up and talked to people like I'm talking to you now with enthusiasm about my projects. So you can learn competence. I even learned architectural drawing, so I didn't have to
Wow.
have some architect
Mm.
translate and interpret what I did. It's not that difficult to do actually, and so I could do it myself. You can learn programming, you can learn anything this day and age, and that is so. I say no excuses. You can do everything yourself at the beginning. It's a lot cheaper when you're really starting out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the quotes from the book is things always work out eventually. So I guess that's more optimistic in that case.
That's my three rules for life, which are don't take anything personally ever.
Yeah.
Number one, very difficult to do, but that's a good thing to gamify. See if you can get through a whole day without taking anything personally or getting a frontage. How dare you say that to me? In fact, try to get through a whole day without saying the word but. That's quite a good game to play.
Is that like a
And the
negative
second
word? But
Well, it doesn't have to be, but it often is. You know, I think it's a good idea, Simon. But. Yeah, I think it is. So it's just a good game to play. See if you get through a day without saying but, and see if you can get through a day without taking anything personally and have a front. What's the response to somebody? Being personal with you and having a go at you. What's the best response? And I've heard I do that in speeches sometimes, and people in the audience go, "Oh, tell them they don't not going to walk over me." Da, 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 da. I say, "No. The best response is to lean forward and say, 'Tell me more.' Could be useful information. Could
wow.
be info." And of course, it's completely disarming to the other person. And then my second rule of life is, well, the third one is don't is well, the second one is don't try and change anybody ever,
Yeah.
because people don't really fundamentally change. And certainly when you're employing. So I remember that I met this guy in Bali. I can't remember if that story is still in the book, but there's a story I tell about a guy I met in Bali. He was a really nice guy, and he was like a zillionaire, a really very successful guy. He was a nice guy. And we were talking about people and employing people in employment law and this, that, and the other. And he said, he said, I know it sounds awful, but he says, I've learned that the time to fire somebody is the first time you think of it. And he's not so far off. The earlier you take action, the better. And the third rule of life is is everything always works out always. And obviously, sometimes you have to wait a long time. You have to change your route. You have to do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But things do work out in the end if you keep going. In Japan, they don't have a word for good luck, but their equivalent word is keep going, and I think that's pretty
Wow.
good.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really interesting story, by the way. Definitely.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask, if your life had a title, I guess you could use the title of the book, but what would the
yeah.
title of your life be?
Well, there could be a whole lot of different ones, but in that moment, the one that came up in my mind, shall I tell you that one?
Yeah.
And it was say yes.
Say yes.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
be.
Just be willing to say yes when a challenge comes up or an opportunity or something, even if you have to bluff it, even if you have to act as if, even if it's going to cause you pain, or even if it's going to put you out, even if it lets other people down.
Yeah.
Sometimes, to say yes, to be a yes man in that sense is one of the things I think looking back, I think I've probably done is stepped up to things, seen things, and I'm going to have a go at that and say yes quickly, not like, oh, let me think about it. I mean, obviously, it is good to think about things overnight
Yeah.
before you open your big mouth. Obviously, that is good, but also sometimes it's good to just open your big mouth and go, yeah, and look people straight in the eyes. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is similarly related. I was thinking about, in society with humans, are we kind of too emotional? Is there space for all these emotions in the business and just life world? Because, if I get upset by someone or angry or whatever, like does that lead to rational decision making, in your opinion?
I think you know, well, we get into AI next, don't we, when we're
Yeah,
having that conversation? Because one thing about that we're going to see with AI is very good balanced decisions. But I think I'm an optimist in that respect, and I think that as it grows, it's so new, but as it grows, it will give very good balanced decision making on everything and really well thought out. We as human beings, we can think about three, four chess moves ahead, maybe, and that will be able to think about many, many different ones. And the second thing is that human beings are ruled by emotions to some extent, some more than others. And we also all have a dark side, including you, Mr. Nice Guy Alex, and me, Mr. Nice Guy
yeah,
Simon.
yeah,
We have a dark side, the side that's selfish and wants to do somebody else over, do better than somebody else or win or secretly punch the air below the table when something goes wrong with somebody else that's to your advantage. That is a dark side. And AI arguably, depending on, you know, various things, but arguably doesn't have a dark side. It just has a
yeah,
balanced view. And actually, I think ultimately that AI will run our countries, actually, and that we will tell. I always thought before AI came along and after the internet came along, I thought that at some point there would be a Wikipedia that told us what the truth was of situations. So we got rid of fake news and it was
yeah,
really, really clever. And obviously that is AI. And I think AI will eventually get rid of fake news to some extent because people will accept that it's not a human being, it's trying to do the best for humanity. And I think that is the great hope. And as Elon Musk did an interview with the Economist the other day, and he was saying
mm,
that he thinks that's a 5 to 10 year program, and he's usually he's a bit of an optimist, and it usually happens a bit later than he says. So maybe it's a little bit longer than that, but it's not a great deal of time. And when asked, what's the problems of it, what's the chances of it going badly wrong, he said 10 to 15%. Now, most people would say 10 to 15%, that's a very big number. Do you know when he said it? I thought that's a pretty small number.
same. I did
Yeah,
too.
I think, well, there you go. You're off to 10, 15%. I'd take that chance, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
If
hundred
there was a
percent.
chance of betting on a horse and you're going to put all your money on it, there was a 10 to 15% chance of the horse losing, I'd go for it.
Yeah, and I adopt another view as well. I think to myself, well, okay, if I ran a big business, would I rather have AI who can do the job more efficiently, perhaps, or an emotional human being? I mean, if we go down that rabbit hole of who you'd rather employ, it's like, as a human, do we have to keep adding value to ourselves to basically make sure that we're always in a good position in that sense?
Well, you think about it, if you take AI and then you add robots, that's the big thing, bots, is
Yeah.
robotics. Because AI can think of the right thing to do, robotics can actually do it. And those two
Wow.
things are and that's why Musk is clever, is he's got both those things going on. And the other one he's got going on is that what both those things need is electricity.
Yeah.
And getting electricity on Earth ain't that easy, but getting it out in space is very easy. And he's got all three parts of that. I mean, that is pretty damn
Impressive.
ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, yeah, I think robotics is the thing, and what that vision is for me is that in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years or whenever it is, but actually with all those, the fear obviously is that all the power goes to just a very rich elite and all the rest of us suffer. Or them, I should say, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm in both. I've got a foot in both camps, to tell you the truth. I know whose side I'm on anyway, put it that
Mm.
way. Um, and it's not just the riches. I don't think that will happen. I think that there's too many people in the world to allow that to happen ultimately. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I think that the benefit of the society we're talking about with bots and electricity and artificial intelligence will mean that we have a society where you can kind of have anything you want because it will be very, very easy to produce. And I'm not just talking about what Madonna would call the material world.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the time to really live out your dreams, and to do what you want to do, whether that's sport or art or creative or business or being part of the building of a new way of looking at the world. I think it's got, if we can get through this, this is the hope for humanity in the next 100 years, which Gen Z, most of the people who are listening to you now, are going to live through that next 100 years,
yeah.
or maybe 120. I mean, have you chosen the right time to be alive? I would say 100% you have.
Yeah.
You know, if you had messed it up and got there 100 years earlier, man, you know, and your kids. Maybe this is the people often say to me because I was born in the 50s and I grew up in the
Yeah.
60s, incredible time of color and music and everything. And that was a pretty cool place to grow up. But I think today is better. I think with all its faults and problems, what's going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years, if you can jump on it, it's a really good time to live. What
100%.
do you reckon?
No, I actually agree. I'm trying to disagree
What
with
do you think
something,
your
but I can't.
generation says?
I think my generation knows that this is the best opportunity they've got to do anything they want to do, and I think actually, even when I was growing up 20 years ago, I mean, I had a BlackBerry as my first phone. There was no let me grab my iPhone and film a podcast or
You
like
got in
this.
there young, boy.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, moving forwards, there's definitely opportunities. That's actually one thing I was thinking to myself the other day. I was thinking, Alex, if nothing works out for you in life, you've got no excuses, man. You've got every resource available. So, yeah, yeah. I know, 100%, 100%. Okay, no, that was really good. I'm gonna
And
switch.
and there's
Yeah, go on.
there's luck involved as well. It may work out for you, it may not, but you've got
Hmm.
to keep trying. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, sorry, you go.
Lead the
There's a bit of
way.
a delay. That's why. Sorry, God.
No, no, I'm really enjoying the conversation.
Oh, likewise. I mean, yeah, I was just going to switch gears for a second. I've just been thinking, is being motivated by other people's doubt an actual good reason to do something, or should you have that inner purpose, like you said in the book?
You're so analytical.
I know I'm too much. I'm too much of an overthinker. This is the problem.
Yeah. In Thailand where I live, I'm married to a Thai lady. Of a respectable age, I always
Hmm.
hasten to add. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise people think, okay, he's sort of gone off with some young girl.
Yeah,
But she, and there's a lot of the Thais say this, one of the things they say, because they're a very incredible race, they've got this kind of Buddhist culture and everything.
yeah,
They're just really nice to each other, basically. And they say, one of their sayings is don't think too much. And I can't even remember what the question was, but I know that the answer is you don't need to work that one out. What was the question again?
it was. Do you think being motivated by other people's doubt is a good form of motivation to do
It's a good
something?
one. Yeah. And if you look right back to Shakespeare, he wrote this line. He wrote, "Nothing is either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so."
Yeah, yeah,
So it doesn't really matter. I mean, if that gets you out of bed, if it gets you jumping out of bed, go for it.
yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
gets you through the night or gets you up in the morning, even better. And talking of getting up in the morning, I mean, I never got up in the morning to get rich.
yeah.
I never bounced out of
Really?
bed to get rich, but
Oh,
I
really?
definitely bounced out of bed. I bounced out of bed not to be poor.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was the
yeah.
real motivation. Yeah, if you see what I mean.
I
Yeah,
do. I do. Yeah.
yeah.
People might have to watch that one back. So he's not saying he didn't get out of bed. He's saying that he got out of bed to not be poor anymore, to get out of his current
Yeah,
situation.
that's right. That's
Exactly
right.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I mean, I did get out of bed for enthusiasm. I wanted to see what was, I wanted to get to my desk or my drawing board or whatever it was to see what I could get done or get to the building site or get to the place where we were developing whatever we were developing just to see how far it had progressed. You know, that's very exciting when you've got a project going on.
Yeah, I mean, so you started your sushi with 200K, and of course there's inflation from that 1997. But
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's probably double or treble.
yeah, exactly. I mean, okay, let's say it's
Double, yeah.
500K. Would you use that money the same way today in 2026?
I think I've used the money really, really well. You know, I mean, restaurants are pretty high risk, and I knew that, but I thought I had something which was really unique because in those days, to walk into a place that had a 150-meter long conveyor belt in it
Yeah.
serving food and three robots that actually drove around the restaurant serving refrigerated drinks and spoke before digital voices had really been. We had a kind of very, very early digital voice, which was actually my voice speaking some kind of false American robotic to save money on an actor, you know. And those robots, one of those robots, it said used to say, "Move your fat ass. Somebody's got a job to do in this restaurant," you know. And I just thought, and you know, people hadn't really heard of sushi. I sort of, you know, even though it's high risk starting restaurants, I thought people are going to come and have a look at this. You know, it's in with a chance. Um, so yeah,
I just picked up on something you said, that you didn't hire a voice actor. I just wrote down business doesn't have to be perfect. Would you agree with that?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And DIY, do it yourself.
Yeah.
So many things you can do yourself and save money as soon as you get you know, committees or as soon as you put up a big whiteboard in the room and get people to sit in front of it and say but you know, at the beginning of something. Later on it's really important to do that, but at the because you get everybody on board. But at the beginning, just you or you and a mate or whatever, it is a very small team of like-minded people popping off of each other can really make things happen.
One quote from Stephen Bartlett is embarrassment is the cost of entry. And I don't know if he made it up, but that's something I've really been learning about lately. You've just I've got to try and turn off this over analytical kind of thinking. Would you agree with that? Just,
Embarrassment, yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know, what is embarrassment? Embarrassment actually is shame. It's I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed of myself. I don't want people to see who I really am. And actually, we're all human beings, and most people aren't thinking about who you are anyway. They're thinking about who they are. They're thinking
Yeah.
more about themselves or what you think of them. So yeah, I did read a book once when I was in my 30s. I thought I don't think I was ever really an alcoholic, but I thought I drank too much and did a few drugs and all of that. And I thought I'm going to give it up completely. So I went to those meetings, and I remember somebody saying, you know, well, I remember two things. One is somebody giving me a book, and the title was "Healing the Shame That Binds You." And I never read the book, but I understood in that moment exactly what they were talking about. That, you know, I had this kind of secret life of my own that I didn't really want to show people who I was. And to come out of the closet and be able to be who you are with all your doubts and insecurities and fears and everything, you know, not wear it on a sleeve and make it embarrassing, but, you know, to be compassionate to what the human experience is. And the other thing is that, you know, that all that stuff that was talked about, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway and just do it and all of that. And that fear is, you know, in all its different forms, is one of the most common human emotions there is. And when you actually realize that, and that everybody is, even successful people like me today, even, you
Yeah.
know, there's an element of that still there, and it never goes away, and that you're normal. You're going back to what we were saying earlier. It is normal to feel shame, to feel fear, and if you get some moments of joy and happiness, that's pretty cool as well. But all of those things, whether it's guilt or resentment, what was that line I think it's a line I use in the book is
Yeah.
talking about one of my schoolmasters when I was young that I used to cop resentments to these people at school when I was a young boy at school, and I hadn't realized that resentments are a poison that you drink, hoping
Yes.
the other person will die, which is not very scientific.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really interesting. You actually mentioned meetings and well, I was thinking, well, sort of what's something you notice within 30 seconds of meeting someone? What's something that people need to be aware of?
I think it is pretty incredible how much you can see in somebody in a very, very short, in a few seconds.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good skill to have when you do meet somebody to be aware, to have that slightly analytical thing that you've got,
Yeah.
to be aware of, I mean, the people who are looking or listening to me now, or listening to you, or looking at me now, you now, just for a moment, consider what are you getting from that person? What's the first impression? So I'm turning it around to say, okay, because we've all got a mask that we wear every
Yeah.
day. Women even put a lot of makeup on that, adds to the mask.
Yeah.
Boys do too, I guess. But we all have a mask that we put on. I think I've always liked that thing of, getting a phone call and smile when you're on the phone call, even if it's just on your
Yeah.
phone, because, to connect and to look people in the eye and all that business, um, and do the opposite, not to look away and think and leave gaps in conversations. I love the idea of the best conversations are when somebody says something, you say something, and then I leave a gap,
Hmm.
and then I respond by saying that's really interesting. And you've done that several times to me during this conversation. And I think that's a really good quality to have, to be able to reflect the sort somebody says really interesting. And I love the that expression of tell me more, tell me more. That's so interesting. Please tell me more. Rather than thinking about what am I going to say next, which is default position for lots of people, myself included.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think in Japan they have this thing called the three faces, which is basically like there's one face which you have at front of strangers, and it's like your public face, and then your second face is at front of your family and your friends, but then you have one face which no one ever sees, and it's the face in the mirror when you look at yourself. So maybe that thinking is similar to what you said, kind of thing. But
Yeah, that's pretty. I never heard that quite like that. I like that.
yeah,
Another one I like of Japan is nemawashi. And
yes,
nemawashi is the ability to create rapport.
yeah,
So that when you meet people, everybody does business differently. And Americans, you walk into a meeting and they go, okay, Simon, what's the deal? Let's have it. What's the deal? In England, we're over polite, "Oh, can I get you a cup of tea?" And all that business. How was your weekend? How was your weekend? All of that stuff. Um, I don't know. Every country's got different culture for doing that. But I like the Nemawashi, which is you build rapport with somebody first. You connect with them, and so I always I've always gone into serious meetings and not ask people about their weekends, but just try to really get to the point of something. Oh,
yeah.
hold on a second. Hold on, I'm just on the phone. Hold on, I'm just checking out. And I go, you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. People sort of double take. Where did that come from? They're just odd things. Say odd things.
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, I guess if we explore this a bit further in a different sort of limelight, would you hire someone who is very good at the job, a 9 out of 10, but you don't like them personally?
I think I would. I definitely hire somebody who thinks they know better than me.
Yeah.
And I definitely hire somebody who is better than me. And I like it when people, I mean, it's nice if they have a good manner of being able to say it, but even if they don't, if they if they effectively say, actually, Simon, in this case, you're wrong. What would be better is to do this and this and this. And then are silent and wait. And there's a bit of me that wants to go, well, if you think you can do that, why don't you go do it? And then give them the freedom. You know, we used to say, give them enough rope to hang themselves, but give them the freedom to go off and do that. And then when you get those sort of people who really want to go off in their own direction and do things better than you, and you just look at them and you go, wow, that's amazing what they did. And that's the time when I want to give them more money.
Yeah.
You know, it's not when they're saying, "Ah, yes, I'll do this, but only if you give me this and this and this." But when they say, "No, I'll sort this," and they go and sort it, and there's a bit of me that goes, "I'm going to give them more money, and I give them more time and more freedom, because I don't want them to go away."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
the best time to negotiate your salary. And negotiating your salary isn't asking for more. Negotiating your salary is doing something that is um, so convincing
Yeah.
that you just want to look after them. And I always say have a BATNA, even if you don't tell people what the BATNA is. And if you read my book, you'll remember that the BATNA is the best
Yeah.
alternative to a negotiated agreement, which is a very good thing to have in any discussion or negotiation. And the BATNA in work is always, there's other people who would like to hire me. And funnily enough, I watched the Steve Jobs thing, going back to Steve Jobs at
Yeah.
Apple, and he was talking about something. He said, you know something, we've got a team that just really want to make these things happen, these new products happen. And to this day, Apple are doing it. You know, they're doing this new foldable phone. I can't wait to see it. And they're also they're going to come out with the glasses, you know, where you see the screen
Wow.
hovering forward in front of you. And that's they're talking about next June. It's inside a year. So I want to see that. But you know, he was saying, um, I've got people who on my team, and I know that they're being offered two, three times the salary by other people in this was years ago in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
But no, they want to stay with us because they're part of this team, which is doing something really, really incredible.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
you're after. That's what
Yeah.
you're after.
I mean, it comes back to that sort of notion that you said last time. I think you said, within 7 meetings, you've got to let someone know your intention, or it should be abundantly clear. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, the seven meeting rule. Don't try and get somebody to say yes, but try to get them not to say no.
Yeah.
And once you've been to seven meetings, they'll know by meeting three normally what you want. And not to ask them, I need 1 million quid or 20 quid or whatever it is. You know, they know they're smart, but you get to know people. Is that why that book really, I think it was like 120 years ago or something it was written, but it's the best title of all time. And it's a Brit, I can't remember what his name was who wrote it, Nelson something. And the book title is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I'll have a look at that.
Isn't that
Definitely.
cool? Isn't
Yeah.
it was back in the 1920s, a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a pretty damn cool book. Name. I never read the book. You don't need to read the book. You just
Yeah.
have to, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Actually,
read the title.
that's something that we can talk about maybe a little bit. Friends. Now, personally, I distinguish between friends and a network, but do you think that we need friends to function or be successful?
I think that we should behave the same way as in many of our behaviors, we should behave
Wow.
um, compassionately and well. I mean, what do you do with your good friends? First of all, you tell them the truth
Yeah.
because they want to hear it because they trust you. And I think one of the things that I've learned in reviews, in talking to people about business and employment law is not good for allowing you to do it in this country, especially when somebody's screwing up. But it's America, it's much easier. But people want to know where they stand with you if you're employing them, or even if you're a partner with them. And I say expose in negotiations, for example, the same thing. It's in negotiations, expose ploys, your own and others. You know, expose the dark side you're doing. So I think people want to do. So I think behavior is very important, and that is everything from just listening, a little bit more silence, not butting in,
Hmm.
going a bit slower, hearing what people are saying, considering taking people seriously, all of those things. So I don't think that I think you should treat people as if they are friends, not buddy buddy,
Yeah.
having a laugh all the time, but just respectfully.
I have never ever thought of it like that. That's really good. Genuinely, yeah, yeah. I've never thought of it like that. That's really made me think. No, that's really good. Okay, well, cool. That's all my questions for today. I'll put the link to Yo Man in the description. Um, yeah, I don't think I was trying to think. Is there anything else? No, I think we're all good.
That's cool. Spread the word. It's been a real pleasure, Alex. I'll see you next year.
Likewise. See you next year. Take care. Thank you very
Once
much.
a year.
Bye
See you,
bye.
bud.